Hey guys, this is Illusion Podfic, and today we're going to be reading Operation Stealth Mode Epic Fail by Maddie28. The summary is, Tim gets drunk with YJ and tries to sneak into Wayne Manor and into his room undetected, but it doesn't go as planned. Alright, without further ado, let's hop right in. Tim Drake has never been a lightweight. Well, maybe a tiny one, especially considering the amount of tequila that has passed through his lips tonight. But that wasn't the point. He was on a mission, a very sneaky mission. After a long night with young Justice, he was convinced that he could stealthily sneak into Wayne Manor without anyone noticing. It was foolproof. Alright, Tim muttered to himself as he stumbled out of the lair, holding himself up against the wall of the alleyway. I've done this 1,000 times. I'll be in my room in no time, and nobody will ever know I was gone. It's like stealth mode, guys. You don't even understand, Tim said, his words slurring as he waved a half-empty bottle of tequila around. Bruce is gonna have no idea I'm coming in. I'm like a ninja. A very, very quiet ninja. Kon muttered, already knowing this was going to be a disaster. Sure thing, Tim. You're basically a ghost. A drunk ghost. His head spun, his thoughts were muddled, but in his mind, Tim was like a ninja. A shadow in the night. He took a deep breath, puffed out his chest, and decided to start the walk to Wayne Manor. This would be his greatest stealth mission ever. After all, he was Tim Drake, the master of all things stealth. Meanwhile, inside Wayne Manor, the Bat family was in the middle of their usual quiet evening. Bruce was in the study reviewing some case files, as usual, while Dick and Jason were lounging in the living room debating over something stupid. So, the whole Batman thing. It's all about intimidation, right? Jason said, throwing his feet up on the coffee table. But what happens when, a villain isn't intimidated anymore? What do you do then? Dick shot him an exasperated look, but he was too busy trying to focus on the movie to give Jason his full attention. I think you're overcomplicating things. It's all about theatrics. You can't really just scare them out of nowhere. Jason scoffed. Oh, trust me, you can. Batman could literally sell a snake oil cure to a paranoid villain. He's that good. Dick rolled his eyes, setting his popcorn aside. You're insufferable. Am I wrong, though? Jason grinned. Then the door creaked open. Is someone breaking in? Dick asked, looking up from the couch. Jason paused and looked over his shoulder, listening. Sounds like it. He stood up curious, and the two of them quietly made their way to the hallway. Out front, Tim was having an adventure. His drunken feet were barely cooperating, and every few steps he stumbled, cursing under his breath. His mind raced with thoughts of how stealthy he was being, unaware of just how loud he really was. All right, Tim muttered to himself, grinning like a maniac. Just gotta get past the gate. Super quiet, super ninja-y. He tripped on the curb, nearly falling face first into the flower bed. I'm good, Tim quickly muttered, already too gone to notice how loud he was being. He couldn't help but chuckle to himself. Ninja Tim, stealth master. Back inside Wayne Manor, Bruce was still deep in his paperwork, when he suddenly heard a loud crash from the front of the house. His head snapped up, immediately alert. This was an unusual break-in. Before he could move, he heard a faint voice echoing through the hallway. I'm stealthy, super sneaky. No one will even know I'm here. Bruce raised an eyebrow, confused, but also a bit alarmed. That was Tim's voice. Dick and Jason stood frozen, their eyes wide with disbelief. I don't even know what's happening, Dick muttered. But I feel like Tim's involved. In the hallway, Tim had finally reached the front door. With his keys in hand, he fumbled around for a moment before jamming the wrong key into the lock. Got it, he whispered loudly, convinced that this was the most ninja thing anyone has ever done. He threw open the door with way too much force, causing it to bang against the wall. Stealth mode activated, Tim shouted, but it came out slurred. Jason couldn't hold it anymore. He was dying from laughter. Oh my god, Tim, you've got to be kidding me. But Tim was already moving, walking into the house like he was auditioning for a role in some cheesy action movie. His first step was too wide, causing him to slam into a side table, knocking over a decorative lamp with a loud clink. Nothing to see here, Tim muttered, trying to sneak towards the stairs, his body swaying like a drunk tree. Totally ninja-like, not even wham! Tim slammed into the door frame. Oh my god, he's gonna knock himself out, Jason laughed. Dick just shook his head, crossing his arms, trying not to smile too much. Why do I feel like I'm the one who has to step in? Tim, meanwhile, was already back on his feet, completely unaware of the chaos he had caused. "I'm like a shadow," he muttered, trying to be serious as he shuffled forward with exaggerated, slow movements. "Like Batman. Like this." He held his arms out wide, swaying dangerously. "No one can stop me. He tripped over his own foot. Bam! Tim fell headfirst into the wall, but immediately bounced back up, convinced that no one had noticed. "Perfect landing. Like a pro," he whispered to himself. Then, in a whisper that was loud enough for the entire house to hear, he added, "Ninjas do this all the time. Totally normal." As Tim tried to recover, he super stealthily, stumbled into the stairs. One step, then another, each one more awkward than the last. Tim finally made it to the top of the stairs, muttering to himself, just like in the movies. No one will know." But the moment his foot touched the last step, his body wobbled dangerously. Like a shadow, quiet as a... Ah! Tim slipped. His foot went straight out from under him, and with all the grace of a falling tree, he crashed down to the bottom of the stairs. Thud. Jason leaned forward, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "I can't... Oh my God, he thinks he's being sneaky." "You have to admit, he's committed," Dick chuckled, already heading downstairs to help Tim up before he got any more creative with his stealth skills. Meanwhile, Tim was still blissfully unaware of their presence and had begun sneaking around the hallway. He tried to tiptoe past a stack of chairs, moving like a drunk snail. Every step was slower than the last, and he couldn't seem to stop knocking into things. "Shh! Be quiet! Stealth mode, Tim! Stealth mode!" he muttered to himself. Jason, unable to control himself any longer, burst out laughing. "Dude, he's literally making more noise than if he was screaming." Dick finally walked down and reached out, tapping Tim on the shoulder. "Hey, buddy," he said, voice full of barely contained amusement. "What are you doing?" Tim froze mid-step and looked at Dick with wide, hazy eyes. "Ninjaing," he said seriously. "I'm trying to sneak past you." Dick didn't even try to hide his grin. "Really? You've been yelling stealth mode for the past 5 minutes. Tim looked absolutely horrified as reality started to creep in. Oh no. Did I? "Yeah, buddy," Jason said, wiping a tear from his eyes. "You're about as stealthy as a marching band." Tim finally collapsed on the couch, too drunk to keep trying to sneak around. "I'm never drinking again," he grumbled, face buried in his hands. Jason tossed a bag of chips at him, still laughing. "Sure you're not, Tim. Sure you're not." "Just don't tell Bruce," Tim mumbled. Dick laughed. "Oh, don't worry. He already knows. You woke the whole mansion." Jason shook his head. "I think the better question is, how did you not know we were watching you?" "I was too busy ninjing," Tim muttered, eyes closing. And so, as Tim passed out on the couch, the Bat family continued to chuckle quietly from around him, fully aware that no mission would ever be as chaotic or as entertaining as this one. Alright guys, and that is the end of Operation Stealth Mode Epic Fail by Maddie28. I hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you next video.